Hey, welcome to the Sunday preview for this week. We've got a reading from the Gospel of St. John, chapter 15. Jesus said to his disciples, "I am the true vine, and my Father is the vine grower. He takes every branch in me that does not bear fruit, and every one that does he prunes, so that it bears more fruit. You are already pruned because of the word I spoke to you. Remain in me as I remain in you. And just as a branch cannot bear fruit on its own unless it remains on the vine, so neither can you unless you remain in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. Whoever remains in me and I in him will bear much fruit, because without me you can do nothing. Anyone who does not remain in me will be thrown out like a branch and wither. People will gather them and throw them into a fire, and they'll be burned. If you do not remain in me and my words remain in you, ask for whatever you want and it will be done for you. By this is my Father glorified, that you bear much fruit and become my disciples." The Gospel of the Lord. This is really Jesus's most famous metaphor that he uses for himself and all the members of his body, the church, like the vine and the branches. And yeah, it's obvious to us that if we cut ourselves off from Christ, we wither and die, right, spiritually, because he infuses that lifeblood in us, right? And he sustains us in our spiritual life. And but it's also true that you find plants, trees with branches that are dead, even though they're connected to the vine. And I think that's the sense in which we can be in the church, but it'd be dead. You know, I got plenty of plants and I always find like a withered branch on some of them because they got some kind of disease in that branch. Didn't affect the rest of the plant really, or at least not seriously, but one branch dies and you got to cut it off. You know, plants get all sorts of things that come from the outside, little aphids and bugs, and try to sap out the strength of those branches. And you got to wash those off and purify them and keep them clean and put something on them to protect them. So yeah, there's always a danger even when we do stay connected, that is when we stay as members of the church, that we can also be threatened, right? We got to be careful about that, because you can be in the church but be filled with sin, right? And you can be dying. But as long as we're connected to Christ, we've got the chance for renewal and revitalization. So it's important description Jesus gives us here. There's another thing he says here that can seem a little scary to us. He says, "My Father will prune the vine when it's strong to make it grow even stronger." And that's the experience we all know when God allows crosses to come into our life and setbacks and sufferings. And sometimes we tempted to complain that, like, okay, we've been good. Why is God punishing us? And God is doing it to make us stronger. Right? Any plant, any tree that gets pruned, blooms more and gives more fruit. And that's what God wants from us too. In the end, it's a loving pruning to make us grow stronger and more united to Christ. So we should welcome that occasional cross that we come along, and welcome it because God wants it out of love.